You know, when I think about Scotlandville and going to school there, it's so funny. Since it was a magnet school, we didn't have a football team. We had a beta team. We had a chess team, but we didn't have a football team. So we didn't have Friday night football and all of the cool sporting experiences that most schools have. I didn't really miss out on it, believe it or not. I guess I thought I would miss that, but I didn't. I still, found my tribe and yeah, I mean, it was really a good experience. But the things that stick out with me about all of that whole experience was when we first moved to Baton Rouge, we moved into a house off of what's called Plache Road. Dad picked it out, right? Dad came to work. He was working at a plant in St. Francisville, which is, for those that aren't familiar, about 30 miles outside of Baton Rouge. It was a nuclear plant. He was working there. So he had come to work early while we were wrapping up the school year in Texas. So he picked out a house. So we were, walking into this house without knowing anything about it. It was a big house. Had a huge living room. Then you walk into the kitchen, and then you go to the left, and there's this long hallway. Each room had a color. The first one was blue. The room on the left. So there's 3 bedrooms on the left, and on the right there's a bathroom, and then the master bedroom. So there was a blue room, a pink room, and a yellow room at the end of the hall. And I chose the end of the hall. I mean, I just like my privacy. And from the first night we were there, I was feeling like spirit activity around me. Trying to ignore it, trying to divert my attention away from it, but I would hear a little girl talking, just all different things. When nobody was there but me, because every now and then I'd end up alone at the house because, parents working, Angel's doing her thing, and I would always stay up in the living room area, so I just felt more secure. It just kind of became a way of life. I never felt threatened there or anything scary. It was not as active as some houses I'd been in, but I mean, I was, like Mom said, it wasn't the house it was haunted, it was you, and I tend to believe that was the case with that. But we lived there. We didn't live there all that long, maybe a year, and we ended up moving into what's called George A's Country Estates. Second house on the right. We had a swimming pool. That was all we needed. It was really cool. I loved living in George A's because I had some friends that lived there. That was when I got my first car. In fact, Angel's 2 years older than me, so she got her first car, and guess what it was? A Ford Pinto. It was one of the white ones with that gaudy blue interior, but man, we used that car. She drove, but she drove me around. We had some fun in that car. It was nice back in the day when you had a standard and you could put it in neutral and push it out of the driveway and sneak out of the house, and then your parents don't hear you start the car up, right? Other than I did do that one time, and I took out the neighbor's mailbox. Forgot to jump back in and hit the brake, but, I don't know what we did about that, if we owned up to it or not. But here's the funny thing. When we would sneak out of the house, we weren't even really going to do anything. It's not like we were going to some major party or something. I think it was just the idea of doing it. But, and I didn't do that a lot, but we did do that a few times. It was fun. They had the way the house was set up was if you go down the driveway, and so you go down the driveway, and to the left all the way at the back is the carport, and if you walk through the carport, there's where the pool was, but there was a pool room, like a room, like, I guess where you could get dressed, or, I don't mean like a pool room, I mean, yeah, I do, a pool room, a room for when, let's just rename it. It was like a bedroom connected to that end of the house, and it had its own door. So we could sneak out of that door and then just go to the right, turn the corner, and we're, out in the driveway, able to push our cars out of the driveway. Before I actually got a car, my cousin Sherry would come spend the weekends, and we did this quite a bit. So Dad worked out of town a lot, and he would fly, so he wouldn't have his truck. So Mom would drive his truck to work, and so her car would be at the house. So Sherry and I would get the keys to the car. It was an LTD Crown Victoria. I don't know if y'all remember those. We would take Mom's car up to Triple B Road up in Central, and we'd just floor it to see how fast we could get before we got to the end of the road. That was after we went to Eckerd's and got some Fun Dip. We used to get the Fun Dip candy and the lemon heads, and then we'd just go drive on Triple B Road. And I think one day I passed Angel. We weren't supposed to be in Mom's car, obviously. But we're trying to haul ass to get back to the house. And when we did, there was this metal shelf out underneath the carport. And Sherry pulled the car up, but she pulled it too far. And the bumper of the car got stuck on the corner of the metal shelf. And then within 5 seconds, that happened. We lost the keys. And it's like all hell broke loose. And the keys were between the seats. We finally found those, but we're panicking because we know Mom's going to be home soon. And we're trying to get the car unhooked from the shelf and blah, 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 blah. We finally did. It bent the shelf and the bumper. And I think Mom brought that up a few days later. Why is that shelf bent? Of course, nobody owned it. But so Angel and I both went to 2 different high schools because I was going to Scotlandville Magnet. Angel went to Central High. Well, due to the fact that Dad worked out of town a lot, Mom would travel to see him on the weekends. And so we planned it early on, probably the beginning of the week. Come this Friday, party. And we would advertise our party to our friends at school. And being the fact that we had, we went to 2 different schools, the party was twice as big. We only had one rule, too. And it was like, the rule was that one of us had to be at the house at all times. Like, in other words, we can't both leave the house open to a party. But that was the rule. Until I ran into her at a Circle K store. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then everybody's back at the house having a party. But that rule didn't work out well. But anyway. But, obviously, my mom knew something was going on because she would come home. Like, she came home one time and she's like, where's my cordless phone? I don't know. We're like shrugging shoulders. I don't know. What happened to it? Well, my friend drove off with it on the back of her car during one of the parties. Or she'd find jewelry in the pool filter system. Somebody's necklace fell off. But it was constantly something. She knew something was going on. But she let us have our freedom, too. I think it was more like, don't tell me, just don't break any laws, and it's okay. I'm sure underage drinking was breaking a law, but, yeah. Is that totally out of the ordinary? No. There were even times we'd have a keg. I don't know. I couldn't coordinate this because I don't know how they did it. Maybe Angel, she's older. It's all Angel's fault. I just have to say that. We would have a keg delivered on a Friday and have it picked up on a Sunday before Mom got home. Isn't that crazy? And I don't even like beer. I think I liked it back then, or maybe you didn't care when you're in high school drinking. You don't care, right? We just had some fun times. Did we make some bad decisions? Yeah, but not like horrible decisions that are going to ruin the rest of our lives. We did what a lot of kids do. We were just the ones that actually hosted the cool parties. And, I don't know. I'm thinking back to all of the things that stick out in my mind. That it was just, yeah. And, we got involved in this church, Blackwater Methodist Church. And we got involved in the youth group. And I tell you what, I can't explain it. I felt safe. It's kind of like when you have your school friends, and then you have this group of people who you can laugh with and play with and even get in trouble with, but have this divine connection to. It was, I don't know, it's some of the most lasting memories for me was that youth group. My friend Becky, I hope she doesn't mind that I mention her real name on here. She was like a saving grace to me. She's 4 years older than me. she just always had my back. She was very understanding. So, you know, I didn't open up to a lot of people, but I did to her, and I just felt safe with her. And I always, I don't know if I've thanked her enough in life of how much of a difference she made in my life, but she was really important to me. It made my whole experience, like all through high school and all, easier, because I was going through some stuff that I could not talk about to anyone, and I'll go into that in a little while, but I was really struggling, and I never shared that. I didn't share it with anyone because I was humiliated, so I kept that to myself. I'll go into that in a little bit, but Becky was one of the ones that just, without even knowing that I had that struggle, she was there. I mean, because there were a lot of times that I was dealing with depression, and yeah, she just had my back. I'm just repeating myself, but she was an important person to me. I have so much gratitude for her. You know, we did some cool things too. I was going to mention that like summers. So those that remember that are from that area. So Waveland, Mississippi, which is west of. I'm on I-10 right now going to Biloxi. West. It's before Biloxi. Waveland, Mississippi used to have this cool campground and this really huge wave pool, and my grandparents had a motorhome, and we would all go camping every summer. Some of the kids would sleep in tents, but sometimes it just depended. Sometimes we would sleep in the camper, but I just have fond memories of that. The wave pool was such a blast. Hurricane Katrina took it all out, and they never rebuilt it. But that was just a really cool time, spending time with your cousins, you know. But Waveland, Mississippi was just super cool. I have some really cool memories. Very cool memories. And it was simple things like walking through the campground. I had my Walkman with my cassette tape that I could play, my spare batteries, my headphones, and I was happy as could be. It was just so cool. The sentence suddenly stops, that's because I had to do some editing. I haven't mastered that. I'm just trying to get these videos up. YouTube was too slow, so I had to break them up. That's all.